The story begins with a man named Eddie Morra standing on the balcony of his apartment, thinking about jumping off to end his life. Behind him, a group of thugs has shown up to kill him, and Eddie doesn't want to die at their hands, which is why he's considering taking his own life instead. Then he starts explaining how he ended up in this situation, and the story shifts into a flashback. We see Eddie, who works as a writer, but looking at him, it's clear he doesn't take care of himself at all. His hair is overgrown, his clothes are dirty, and he spends his entire day lying around his apartment with no motivation to do anything. He hasn't written a single word in a long time, and his days just slip by like this. He sleeps all day, does drugs, eats whatever he can, and watches Bruce Lee fight scenes on TV. One day his girlfriend Lindy asks him to meet, and as soon as they do, she tells him she can't be with him anymore. Eddie understands that she's leaving because he's not doing anything with his life, while Lindy's career is actually going well. She even recently got a promotion. Desperate, Eddie tries everything
Don't propose.
he can to stop her, even going as far as asking her to marry him, but Lindy refuses, reminding him that he's already been married once before and that marriage didn't even last a week. Hearing all this, Eddie realizes that Lindy is not going to stay with him, and the two of them break up as she walks away. As Eddie starts heading back home, a man suddenly stops him on the street.
Eddie Morra.
His name is Vernon, the brother of Eddie's ex-wife. It's been years since they last saw each other, but Vernon still recognizes him right away. The two of them decide to sit down at a nearby bar where we learn that 9 years ago, when Eddie first met Vernon, he was dealing drugs. But now, Vernon claims he works for a pharmaceutical company and that his entire lifestyle has changed, something Eddie finds hard to believe. Then Vernon places a pill in front of him and says it's called NZT48. It hasn't hit the market yet, but according to him, it's unlike anything Eddie has ever seen. Eddie refuses at first, saying he doesn't want to take drugs again since his life is already a mess and he doesn't want to fall back into addiction. But Vernon insists this drug is completely different.
And you know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? It lets you access all of it.
Still, Eddie shows no interest in taking it. Just then, Vernon gets a phone call and says he has to leave. Before walking away, he leaves the pill on the table along with his business card. Now Eddie is on his way back home. On the way, he looks at the pill, hesitates for a moment, and then takes it. As he reaches his building and is about to step inside, his landlady confronts him, yelling that he hasn't paid rent for months. While they're arguing, the pill suddenly starts to kick in, and Eddie feels like his mind has completely opened up. Everything becomes sharper. He can see, hear, and notice details with incredible clarity. He instantly observes what book she's carrying in her bag and tells her it seems like she's taking out her frustration with her husband on him, even asking if something's wrong at her law college. Shocked,
You're a creep, aren't you? You've been following me.
No, I just noticed the book.
Eddie calmly explains that he saw a book in her bag that's commonly used in law school. She doesn't believe him at first, but we learn that Eddie had only glanced at that book once, 12 years ago. Yet now, with full access to his brain, he remembers everything about it. To prove it, he starts reciting exactly what's written on specific pages. Completely impressed, later, when he returns to his own apartment, he suddenly notices how filthy it is, something he never cared about before. But now, under the drug's effect, everything changes. Within minutes, he cleans the entire place. He no longer feels the urge to do drugs and becomes intensely focused, knowing exactly what he needs to do. He sits down to write his book, and in a surprisingly short amount of time, he finishes the entire manuscript. Eddie takes the completed book to his publisher, who can't believe he managed to write it so quickly. Eddie tells her to read a few pages, and if she doesn't like it, he'll return the advance. After saying that, he leaves. The next morning, when he wakes up, he realizes the effect of the pill is gone. It only lasts for about a day. Just then, he gets a message from the publisher.
Eddie, give me a call when you get in. I really just call me the minute you get in.
Hearing this makes Eddie incredibly happy, and now he wants more of the drug so he can keep producing at that level. He goes straight to Vernon's place, and when Vernon opens the door, Eddie notices bruises on his face. When he asks about it, Vernon avoids the question and instead starts talking about the drug, saying not many people know about it and that it's made by some very strange individuals.
So you want some more?
Yes, definitely.
Vernon tells him he can't go out in his current condition, so he asks Eddie to step out, grab some food, and pick up his clothes from the laundry. Eddie leaves, and a few hours later, when he returns, he finds Vernon dead and the entire apartment completely trashed. Terrified, Eddie calls the police to report the body, but they're taking too long to arrive. As he looks around, he starts piecing things together. Whoever came here was also searching for that pill, and when they couldn't find it, they killed Vernon, which means somehow those pills are still hidden somewhere inside the apartment. He immediately puts on gloves and starts searching searching for the pills. But even after looking for a long time, he can't find them anywhere. Frustrated, he sits down and starts thinking, and that's when his eyes drift toward the kitchen. He realizes that if there's a kitchen in the apartment, why would Vernon ask him to bring food from outside? That can only mean the pills are hidden somewhere in there. He quickly heads to the oven, reaches inside, and finds a package. When he opens it, he discovers a diary, some cash, and a large stash of pills. Just as he picks them up, the police arrive at the door. Eddie quickly hides the pills, opens the door, and tells them that he found the body as soon as he walked in. The police take him to the station and question him about his connection to Vernon. Eddie explains that Vernon was his ex-wife's brother, so they immediately call his ex-wife Melissa. She speaks with the officers and also talks to Eddie, after which the police let him go. From this point on, Eddie's life completely transforms. He starts taking the pills daily, and his brain begins operating at an extraordinary level. The first thing he does is change his appearance, and within just 4 days, he finishes another book. He can instantly pick up any language he hears, learns it on the spot.
This was great.
And even uses his sharp mathematical thinking to win money at casinos. He's absorbing everything at an incredible speed, becoming fluent in multiple languages, and using that to connect with people from all over the world. As time passes, he starts getting noticed everywhere and eventually befriends extremely wealthy individuals who invite him to travel with them on luxurious holidays. He joins them in another country, enjoys the experience, and one day jumps off a mountain into the water below. In that moment, he realizes something important. Everything he thought about becoming a writer was wrong. He doesn't actually want to be a writer. He wants to truly enjoy life, and for that, he needs money. No matter what it takes, he decides he's going to become incredibly rich. He returns from the trip and starts making money in the stock market. He's earning a significant amount, but he knows his capital is limited, and the more capital he has, the faster he can multiply his profits. So he goes to a gangster named Gennady and asks him for $100,000. At first, Gennady refuses, but
I get the strong feeling that you're not somebody I want to disappoint.
while handing over the money, he threatens Eddie, saying that if he doesn't return it with interest, he'll cut off his hand. But Eddie is confident he can pay it back. The very next day, he starts trading, and within a week, he turns that money into millions of dollars, leaving everyone shocked. People everywhere start talking about him. One night, Eddie gets a call saying that
We got you a meeting with Carl Van Loon.
the richest man in the city wants to meet him. Eddie is thrilled, knowing this could change his life. The next day, he meets Lindy, and the two sit together in a restaurant. When the waitress arrives, Eddie casually speaks to her in Italian, which impresses Lindy even more. She already knows how much money he's made, and by now, Eddie has become incredibly famous. The two of them get back together and spend the entire day and night with each other. But soon, Eddie starts to feel like someone is following him, so he returns to his hotel and looks out the window at night to check if the man is still there. That's when he experiences the side effects of the drug for the first time. He suddenly zones out, and moments later, he finds himself standing in the lobby with no memory of how he got there. The next day, he finally meets Carl, and with his sharp mind and words, he manages to impress him as well. Carl then offers to drop him home. On the way, Carl hands Eddie a full file on a new company he's planning to acquire. Eddie analyzes the entire file incredibly quickly, and after that, Carl drops him off and leaves. But once again, the side effects start hitting Eddie. One moment he's in one place, and the next, he finds himself in a completely different part of the city, with no memory of how he got there. This keeps happening repeatedly, and eventually we see him in a hotel room with a woman, being intimate with her. Even there, he notices the same man who has been following him. Suddenly, he feels pain in his leg, and it triggers a memory. Earlier, while coming out of the subway, some men tried to attack him, but instead, he ended up fighting them off. Because he had watched so many Bruce Lee fight scenes, he remembers all those moves perfectly, and uses them to beat them down. The next day, he wakes up and finds himself far away, with no recollection of what happened over the past day. He returns home and starts analyzing the file again, but soon realizes he needs the drug once more. This time, when he checks the box, it's empty. He's out of pills. Just then, his friend Kevin calls and tells him that Carl has a meeting today, and he needs to get there as soon as possible. But Eddie knows that without the drug, he won't be able to perform, so he starts making excuses, saying he's sick. Kevin insists that he has to come no matter what, because this opportunity won't come again.
Okay, I'll be there.
Eddie goes anyway, but during the meeting, he can't focus at all. Then he notices something on the TV, a news report showing the same woman he was with the previous night. He learns that she has been murdered. Shocked, Eddie rushes out and starts vomiting, overwhelmed and terrified, not knowing who killed her, or whether he himself might be responsible. Now Eddie needs those pills at any cost. He still has Vernon's diary, so the first thing he does is call his ex-wife, Melissa, and asks her to meet him. After that, he starts calling every number listed in the diary one by one. But everywhere he calls, he learns the same thing.
Paul passed away 3 days ago.
Everyone who had taken this drug is dead. However, when he dials the last number, the phone starts ringing nearby, and he realizes it belongs to the same man who has been following him all along. Panicked, Eddie runs and goes straight to meet Melissa. Seeing him, Melissa admits that she knows he's been taking NZT. She had taken it too. At first, it felt amazing, but after some time, her condition started getting worse, so she stopped taking it. She explains that once you quit the drug, your body begins to shut down, organ by organ, especially your brain. As she speaks, her symptoms become visibly worse. She asks Eddie how long he's been using it, and when he says 2 months, she gets even more alarmed. She tells him she only took it for a week, and it already did this much damage to her. She warns him that if he still has pills left, he needs to keep taking them, because the moment he stops, his condition will rapidly decline. After saying this, she leaves, and now Eddie can feel his own condition getting worse. He has only 1 pill left as he heads home. Suddenly, Gennady attacks him, demanding his money. Trying to steady himself, Eddie attempts to take the pill, but it falls into Gennady's hands. Eddie tries to stop him, but Gennady swallows it anyway. He then drags Eddie to a bank where Eddie withdraws the money and hands it over. But now, the drug's effects begin to kick in for Gennady as well. His mind starts sharpening, and he begins to see everything with intense clarity. Without the drug, Eddie's condition keeps getting worse. Finally, he goes to Lindy and tells her the entire truth. As she listens, her own anxiety starts rising, but Eddie insists that he has hidden some pills and she needs to go get them. When Lindy asks where they are,
In my house. Unbelievable.
as soon as she leaves with the pills, the same man starts following her. She quickly calls Eddie and tells him what's happening. Eddie tells her to run, but the man attacks her. Lindy runs for her life, even asking 2 men nearby for help, but the attacker stabs them both. Terrified, she hides and calls Eddie again. This time, Eddie tells her that no one else can save her. She has to save herself. He tells her to take one of the pills and see what happens. With no other option, Lindy takes it, and suddenly everything becomes crystal clear to her. She spots a girl ice skating nearby and runs toward her while the man chases her. Grabbing the girl's skate, Lindy uses it as a weapon and strikes the attacker, leaving him injured on the ground. After that, Lindy makes it safely to her office, gives Eddie one of the pills, and takes him to a hotel. The next morning, when Eddie wakes up, he feels completely fine again. But Lindy tells him that this drug changes people, just like it changed her, and as long as he keeps taking it, she can't be with him. Eddie responds that he can't stop now. He still has too many things to fix. Lindy tells him that once he's done and finally quits the drug, she'll come back to him, and then she leaves. After that, Eddie throws himself back into work. Now thinking more clearly than ever, he meets Carl again and starts working with him. At the same time, he develops a strategy to control the drug's side effects, maintaining a proper diet and staying away from other substances. Then he visits a doctor in a lab, gives him a sample of the drug, and asks him to recreate it, this time without the side effect, promising to pay whatever it takes. After saying all this, Eddie leaves, but now he has to go to the police station. There, an officer tells him that a witness saw him with the woman who was murdered, and he was the last person seen with her. However, Eddie comes fully prepared. He brings in one of the city's top lawyers who gets him out almost instantly. The next day, they head into an important meeting where we meet a man named Hank, whose company Carl is planning to acquire. The deal is nearly finalized, but Hank's health is rapidly declining. Carl is extremely pleased with how things are going and tells Eddie that he's ready to give him $40 million and even offers him a partnership because he doesn't want Eddie to become his competition in the future. Hearing this, Eddie is thrilled, feeling like his life has finally turned around. But as he steps bar, he sees Gennady waiting for him. Gennady demands more pills. Eddie tells him he doesn't have any left, but Gennady threatens him, saying he knows Eddie is working with Carl, and if he doesn't get the pills, he'll tell Carl that Eddie is a drug addict. Eddie brushes it off, knowing that once the deal is finalized the next day, he'll have the money and the contract secured. After that, nothing anyone says will matter. But the next day, Hank doesn't show up for the meeting. Shortly after, his wife arrives and informs them that Hank is in the hospital taking his last breaths. If he recovers, he'll come and sign the deal himself. Otherwise, his wife will receive power of attorney and complete the sale. So, the deal is still on. As Carl and Eddie walk her out, Eddie suddenly realizes that the man who had been following him all this time is actually Hank's bodyguard. Everything clicks. Hank was also taking the drug, and without it, his condition deteriorated, which is why the bodyguard had been chasing Eddie trying to find more pills. Meanwhile, Eddie is called back to the police station again. This time, he arrives with his lawyer, hands over his coat, and stands in a lineup. The eyewitness is supposed to identify him, but everyone in the lineup looks similar, and the witness gets confused, failing to recognize Eddie. After walking free again, Eddie takes his coat and goes straight to Carl. Carl is visibly stressed, saying that Hank is on the verge of death, and the media has already reported that they're planning to acquire his company. Suddenly, Eddie starts feeling the withdrawal hit him again. He realizes it's time for another dose. He always keeps the pills in his coat, but when he checks, they're all gone. Panicked, he rushes outside, and that's when he notices a package delivered for him. He opens it and is horrified to find 2 severed hands inside, the same 2 men he had hired as his bodyguards. It's clear that Gennady is behind this. Eddie rushes back home and turns on the TV, and as soon as he sees his lawyer on screen, everything clicks. He realizes that this same lawyer also works for Hank, and Eddie had handed him his coat earlier. That means the lawyer stole all the pills and sent them to Hank. If Hank gets the drug, he'll recover. His mind will start working again, and he'll cancel the deal with Carl. And if that deal falls through, Eddie loses everything. The $40 million, the partnership, everything. Now he has no money and no pills. His entire world is collapsing. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Eddie checks the camera and sees Gennady outside, demanding more pills. Earlier, Eddie had given him a few just to save his life, but now Gennady wants more. Eddie checks his phone and realizes there's no network. He's completely trapped. Knowing he's about to die and not wanting to die at Gennady's hands, he walks toward the balcony, ready to jump. But then he remembers there's still one pill left in a box. He rushes back, searches through everything, and finally finds it. Just as he's about to take it, Gennady barges in. The pill slips from Eddie's hand and falls to the floor. Gennady then pulls out a syringe and explains that the pills don't last long when taken normally, so he converted them into a liquid form. Injected directly, the effect lasts much longer in the bloodstream. He demands that Eddie tell him where the rest of the pills are, saying that before taking the drug he never realized his true potential, but now he understands he could become the richest man in the world. Now Gennady tells his men that he's getting into import-export and orders them to search the entire apartment for the pills, while he himself steps forward to torture Eddie. Just then, Eddie notices a knife lying nearby. As Gennady comes closer, Eddie suddenly grabs it and attacks him, stabbing him again and again until he's dead. In the end, Gennady's body lies on the floor, bleeding, and Eddie collapses beside him. He knows that as soon as Gennady's men come back in, they'll kill him, but Eddie realizes that the drug is still in Gennady's bloodstream, so if he consumes his blood, he might survive. Desperate to stay alive, he does exactly that. Soon, his mind starts working at full capacity again. Using his sharpened thinking, he kills the two men and leaves their bodies behind, making it look like a fight connected to the previous drug dealer who lived there. Then he heads straight to the hospital, where he learns that Hank has died. Eddie goes to meet the bodyguard, realizing that Hank never actually received the pills. He tells the bodyguard that the lawyer had stolen them, but for some reason, never delivered them to Hank. Furious, the bodyguard teams up with Eddie, and they go to the lawyer's house. The bodyguard has already tied the lawyer up, and Eddie finally gets his hands on the pills again. The bodyguard is ready to kill the lawyer and disappear from Eddie's life for good. Time passes, and about a year later, we see Eddie again. His book has been published and has become a bestseller, titled Illuminati. Now he's running in a Senate election, with his ultimate goal being to become president. Just then, Carl comes to meet Eddie. Carl reveals that he's figured out the secret behind Eddie's extraordinary intelligence. He knows about the pill, and he's even bought the entire company that was manufacturing it, although no one is sure where it was actually being produced. He's also discovered that Eddie had a private lab and has already shut it down. Now Carl tries to blackmail him, saying that if Eddie wants access to the drug, he'll have to ignore Carl's illegal dealings and help him. Otherwise, Carl will expose him as a drug user right when he's about to become a senator. After saying this, Carl confidently walks out, thinking he's in control. But outside, Eddie stops him and says he's not going to work for him. Carl, confused, asks what he's talking about. Eddie calmly explains that having a sharp mind means staying one step ahead and solving your biggest problems first. And he has already solved the NZT problem. He tells Carl that he's not taking the pills anymore. After years of work, he eliminated all the side effects and created a formula that works permanently. Now, with just one use, his brain functions at that level forever. And that formula exists only in his mind. No one else knows about it. As far as the world is concerned, the drug no longer exists, and no one but him will ever be able to use it again. Eddie then points ahead and tells Carl to look at a car about 500 meters away, speeding toward them at nearly 170 miles per hour, saying it's about to crash. And moments later, it happens exactly as he predicted. He steps closer, places his hand on Carl's chest, and calmly tells him he has a heart condition, something only Carl himself knew. Eddie then puts him back in his car and warns him that if he thinks he can blackmail him or destroy his career, he's completely mistaken. Eddie explains that he's always been one step ahead, and for every move Carl makes, he already has 5 counter moves ready. He makes it clear that Carl won't stand a chance against him. Shaken and unsettled, Carl leaves. After that, Eddie heads to a Chinese restaurant where Lindy is sitting across from him, showing that they're still together. When the waiter arrives, Eddie places the order in fluent Chinese, and Lindy smiles at him. Eddie smiles back, and with that, the story of Limitless comes to an end.